you guys? You're good? Can I just tell you how lucky you are that you're already here? It took me maybe 2 hours to get here from uptown. My heart was like pounding, and then I walk in, and you guys are all zen and calm. So let me woosah a little bit. Okay, let me just see who's in the room. How many of you are, a show of hands, either content creators, bloggers, vloggers, writers, social media influencers, entrepreneurs, or brand execs? Raise your hand. Yes, give yourself a round of applause. Got some power in the room. Okay, why don't we start by having each of you just kind of introduce yourselves. Let me scoot back a little bit.
No, you're good. I'll scoot back. You're good.
Oh, okay. So introduce yourselves. Just give us a little bit about, you know, what you're doing, how you got your start, that kind of stuff.
I go first.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Tosi. I founded Milk Bar, this sort of like, hi. You will have a little nibble of Milk Bar, I think, after this session. But yes, we brought some Milk Bar. It's this quirky American-style bakery that I opened in 2008. And our mission is super simple. It's just to spread joy. The cookies, the cake truffles, the cereal milk soft serve is the conduit, but it's to remind you to, like, every day celebrate, not just the big stuff. The little stuff is the most important stuff to celebrate. To bring joy, to spread joy, to give joy.
Really quickly, just to give people an idea, how did you get your start? Like, was it a long process, or was it in 1 month, boom, you have it, or what was
it? It was a long and winding road to get to opening Milk Bar, but I learned to bake from the matriarchs in my family. They were like strong, very strong-willed, strong-minded women, and I had a very long and winding path to get to the point that I decided to become a pastry chef, and then to be like, I don't want to be that kind of pastry chef. I want to be my kind of pastry chef. It was a lifelong pursuit, but I think that's what most things in life are if you're doing it right.
Do you feel like you're there? Do you feel like you can exhale a little bit?
No.
No.
No, and that's why I wake up every day. Like, that's what keeps me going every day. I like figuring stuff out.
I love it. Okay. Yeah. A little bit of your background, your journey.
I still want to hear lots more about your start, but we're going to get there.
Yeah.
I'm Gail Simmons. I have been, I'm from Canada, which is really nice, but colder than here. And I moved to New York about 20 years ago with the original intent to be a writer, a food writer. I loved food, but I realized shortly after college that I didn't know anything about food, which in fact is a prerequisite to write about it. Back then, media meant writing for a print publication because, as I said, it was a long time ago. And so the media universe in food was very limited. I moved here to go to culinary school originally, and then someone at that school convinced me that I shouldn't be a writer right away, but that I should actually cook, which felt like very unusual advice and sort of counterproductive at the time, but thank goodness I listened to it, and I cooked. And always with the intent to just get the education of what it was like to work in a kitchen so I could write about it later. And so through a long and winding road, I went back to writing after cooking for a while and worked in various ways through the food and writing universe. I've now been at Food and Wine magazine for 15 years, and about 14 years ago, while at Food and Wine, I became a judge on Top Chef, and I've been doing that ever since. And
game changer.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it is. We joke that we were the trailblazers, and now we're like with our canes. We're like let's say the godparents of the genre. But through it, I've been able to start my own production company to make more food content focused on being by women and for women, because there, as much as it doesn't feel like it in this room right now, there is still very few women voices, in the ratio in the food world, telling their stories in all mediums. So
we're here to talk about, you're using your platform for good, but because there's so many people here who want to pick your brains really quickly, just because we're givers and good for the people in this room, tell me about maybe your mentors or anybody who helps you along the way, and the best piece of advice you've received that you can pass along to the people in this room.
I've had a lot of mentors along the way. I think no one does it alone. So if you don't think you've had any mentors, you're probably not looking in the right place. My greatest mentors were my grandmas and my mom. And they taught me the very simple fact of know who you are. And who you are, to be clear, is not the next anyone. It's the first you. And
Hold on, let me think about that for a second. Who you are is not the next anyone.
Yeah.
It's
the first you.
the first you. That's good.
Like
See,
you're
people are
not
taking
you're
notes.
you're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Can't be the next anything. It's the first you. And like take your time to figure out who that is and get to know that person and own that person and honor that person
And what would you say?
in your day.
Mentors and then the best advice before we move on.
I've had a lot of great mentors. Certainly, the first was my mother, too, thankfully. My mother was actually a cooking teacher and food writer. She had a column in the Globe and Mail, which is Canada's biggest newspaper, when I was growing up. And it was, at the time, a way for her to really stay home and raise me and my older brothers while still doing something she loved. And interestingly, when I told her many years later that I wanted to be a food writer, she wasn't so into the idea. She wanted me to be a lawyer. And she still thinks there's a chance that might happen. But I think ultimately she's really proud that I was able to be inspired by her. And I had a few incredible mentors along the way. But it really wasn't into like my late 20s, early 30s that I had my first real female mentor who allowed me to sort of voice my concerns about what I wanted to be and to dream a little bit bigger than I had thought I could before that. Namely, really the editor-in-chief and the publisher at Food and Wine magazine, who were both women. They have both since changed in their roles, but I'm still very close to both of them, and they always have just given me the best advice about my career and how to be confident in my beliefs and my path. And one of the biggest lessons I would say that I've taken away from what mentors have given me, I would say that early on, an editor I worked for, and I sort of touched on this earlier, said to me that if you really want to be trusted as a source in the media that you choose, and for me it was food, that you need to speak that language really fluently. And for me that meant going to culinary school and learning to cook, but it could be anything. At the time, his idea was, look, if you want to be a war reporter, you can't do it from your couch, right? You need to be on the front lines of whatever you're doing. It's very easy to sit behind a computer and judge what other people are doing or throw around your opinion, but to really put your face behind what you're saying and have people trust you and feel that you're authentic and also authoritative, you really need to learn your craft and learn what learn what the other people in your field are doing right that you can then take and make your own.
There's so many people who are so good at what they do that sometimes you can't fake it. You know what I mean? Like, people know their stuff.
Well, I also think to that point that there's so many people who know what they do that what makes you different, and not to say that you're not, because I think we are,
Sure.
but that I think it's important to find out that we all have an opinion and a point of view, and so what's your point of view, and make it heard.
I love that. Let's talk about what you're currently working on. What does a busy day look like to you, and then how do you get it all done? What's a busy day? How do you juggle? Give us some words of wisdom. I'll start with you.
Every day is different,
Okay.
which I love. I'm here for a challenge. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what like feeds my soul and my spirit and my imagination. Keeps me well fed as well. I am here for the challenge of a day. I suppose I compartmentalize. I learn. Before I go to bed at night, I check in with myself and I do the all right, what was good about today?
Every
What
night
could
you
I
do that?
Yeah. Well, I ask myself a series of questions. One is were you a good person today? Did you leave this place better than you found it in general? whether that's something tiny for someone in my family or on my team, or just like a random act of kindness for someone on the subway, whatever it was. Like, did I leave this place better? Did I make my grandma proud? Whatever it was. I'll be like, all right, what didn't rock today? Like, what do you plan to do about it tomorrow? And I have like little things that I figure out about myself that set me up for success the next day. Whether I'm like late for something, all right, why were you late? What can you do about it? And what I have found largely is that that's a successful tool to like know myself and know certain things to manage myself. And I just compartmentalize. Like, when I'm at work, I'm at work.
How much is business? How much is creative? Or is it all one and the same?
I have a very creative job. So those two things run together at the same time. But I like being creative at home when I'm not at work. But when I'm at work, I'm at work. And I really won't let anything about the rest of my life penetrate. I kind of like think about my commitments in different rooms. It's like when I'm in one, you can't be in two rooms at the same time. So when you walk into a room, turn on the light and be in that room. And when you leave, turn off the light, 'cause you're not trying to waste.
Wow.
You're not trying to pay the power bill for that. And walk into the other room and be in that room. And I think that for me, thinking about it in that way helps me stay present. I think about the amount of time that I spend in each place, in each room, in like this house, and that helps me do all the things. And it helps me set myself up for success. I look at my calendar, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna be in the workroom for a long time today, or I haven't been in that room for a while, and it helps me make sure that I'm putting the balance of things, prioritizing the balance of things in life, in the ways in which I hope to receive that balance in life, because it helps me keep all those little things in my ecosystem.
I can tell you're present now. You can tell you're
I'm with
not.
you.
You're not thinking about things you have to do for the day. What does a busy day for you look like, and what are you currently working on?
Again, every day is different, which is what I love. When I spend, let's say, 3 months of my year, give or take, in production. But it's also very compartmentalized. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about compartmentalization, and you summed it up in a way I really like. So thanks, Christina. But there's like really intense stretches where I'm traveling, and then there's stretches where I'm calmer and I'm able to like be in my office or be with my family. And so how to get it all done, I think you rely on your resources. I'm learning to ask for more help every day, which isn't always easy to do. I think we are all like master jugglers and compartmentalizers, because that's the only way to fit it all in your brain. I joke that it's like pouring out of my ears some days, just freely. I'm losing it all. I can't keep it in. And so how do I try and like tackle each challenge as it comes, instead of trying to do everything at once, because I really believe we're not gonna do our best work that way. So I'm whether it's I'm working on a book project, or I'm working on a television pitch, or a in production show, or recipes that I know are going to be due, I try to look at my week at the beginning of the week and have a sense of what the whole week looks like in advance, but I can't look too far ahead. I really like making small goals, but because if you make them too far out, they're unattainable. I never have a 5-year plan. So don't ask that question, because that's my most hated question in the world. Mostly because I have no idea. I could never have told you 5 years ago that I'd be here, and I certainly am never going to be able to predict for you what 5 years from now will look like. But I like making small, sort of more attainable goals in my life. If it's like this week, what I need to accomplish this week or this month, or I know that I have one deadline that I need to work up to. And if you take them apart in small ways, I find them to be much more digestible.
Easier to climb. It's good stuff. Let's talk about using your platform for good and the importance of it. Why do you think it's critical today, frankly now more than ever, to take the gifts that the good Lord has given you and the talents and the blessings and use it to help other people? And then we'll get into what you do day to day. Why is it so important to you?
It's for me, it's part of my identity. It's how I was raised. It was how I was raised to understand how the world works. That the only reason we're here is because no one does it alone. In the same no one does it alone spirit, Service is a really important part of my identity that exists in my home life, in my friendships, in any relationships that I have. If I have something, if you are cold, I will take the coat off. I don't care how cold I am, I'll take my coat off. That's how I identify, sometimes to my own fault. And in the spirit of how you do anything is how you do everything, it's important. It's impossible for that to not be a part of how I think about any part of this day that I'm constantly trying to figure out how to get it all done and compartmentalize. It's a core value of the business I built. It's baked into every cookie.
In what way?
The mission at Milk Bar is not to sell as many cookies as humanly possible. It's to, how we serve is by putting care and happiness and integrity into what we do and making sure that cookie is a conduit for that same spirit. And how Milk Bar operates behind the walls of each of the bakeries or the stores or the website is also you're making a commitment to me. I'm making a commitment to you as your employer, as your boss, and you're making a commitment to the people that come in that want to be a part of Milk Bar, and we take all those commitments seriously. So I'm asking for your commitment, but I'm gonna care for you, and I'm gonna build a bakery that gives you health insurance and maternity and paternity leave and a 401k and a dental plan, pet insurance and things that are cause I wanna make sure you know that I care about you, and I wanna make sure that I'm empowering you to care about each other and other people. And that's just that's a small but mighty example of it.
Tell me about, is it Cookies for Kids Cancer?
Yeah, Cookies
Tell
for
us
Kids
about
Cancer
that.
is I'm on the board of Cookies for Kids Cancer. I'm also on another board with Gail, but I'll let her
Get to
talk
Hot Bread
about that.
Kitchen in a second. Yes.
It is an organization that was founded by a family that lost their son to a battle for cancer a while ago, and in losing him, discovered how wildly underfunded pediatric cancer research is, that all the money that we raise to go into cancer research, which is an incredible feat in and of itself, such a tiny little sliver of it goes to pediatric cancer research because this is gonna break your heart a little bit, but because it's less of an industry for drug companies that are working on drugs to help cause cancer, the section of children that are diagnosed with cancer is just less than grown-ups, and so the funding is less. But for me, and how you do anything is how you do everything, so much of who I am is trying to figure out how to get back to kid as a state of mind and remembering how trying to live in the spirit of the world is an exciting place. It's also frightening and terrifying and sometimes can be terrible and stressful and all these other things, but it's totally worth showing up for every day. And I'm so inspired and influenced by my own childhood and by kids and how they see and live life. And I really believe that the power of a cookie could be helping protect these kids from the spirit of their childhood, the memories they make, the relationships they make,
I was just
their
looking
way of
here,
understanding the world.
Has funded 100 childhood cancer research grants.
So the cool part about it's
Yes.
amazing.
It's amazing.
The cool part about the organization as well is that every dollar that we raise goes directly into cancer research.
Every dollar.
Exactly. Every single
hear
dollar.
that, you
And
know?
it goes straight into the research grants. So as a board, we talk about a lot of things. So we spend hours going, which grant, which research grant is the most meaningful? Where is the power of our dollar in here? And we directly then see the results. So much so that over these 100 childhood cancer research grants, the young man, Liam Witt, that we lost, that inspired Cookies for Kids Cancer to originally develop, in theory could have been saved because our work, this theory of the power of a good cookie has made such an impact. And that's really meaningful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Talk about Hot Bread Kitchen. I'll let you take that one. What's that all about?
Sure. Hot Bread Kitchen is a social enterprise that Christina and I both work very closely with and have for many years. It has been around for 10 years. We just last week celebrated its 10-year anniversary, which is really impressive. And when you hear what it does, it's all the more meaningful. The woman who founded it, a friend of ours, Jessamine Rodriguez, I think it started because she did an MBA and wanted to work in the food world, giving back in some way, and she realized that bread, is sort of a metaphor for creating life and connection, and she thought about this way that learning to bake bread could empower economic growth in underserved communities, specifically women and immigrants. And so first, she went back and learned how to bake bread from the bread baker at Danielle, which is like the fanciest restaurant in the history of the universe, and maybe not the universe, but let's say America. And she, when she felt she really understood how to bake bread, which is a very difficult thing to master, she started Hot Bread Kitchen, which trains immigrant and underserved women in New York City for by teaching them how to bake bread, teaching them job training, food service training, giving them health insurance, Metro cards so they can get to work, which is often the simplest thing that prevents them from holding down a full-time job, helps them with child support and child care and English as a second language work and education, and gives them the skills they need to change their economic trajectory and helps place them in food service jobs all over the tri-state area. So
I was just looking at the stat there.
Yes, and they also have retail bread that is baked in their bakery that all funds the mission. So you can go to Whole Foods and buy Hot Bread Kitchen bread and know that all the money, all the proceeds from the bread that you are buying goes back to training these women. And in 10 years, we've trained over 430 immigrant and underserved women in New York for amazing jobs. And they've all, they are all making now 70% more annually than they made before they came into the program. So we're really proud of the work. And then there's a second sort of part to the organization, which is that they also run a food incubator for underserved food businesses, which provides not just kitchen space for small food businesses to workshop and grow, but also business plan, consulting and training and support and resources so that small businesses by underserved communities can get access to those resources.
To wrap this up, I was just looking, it says it graduated 178 new culinary careers. So you think about 178 women or people, and those women and the families that they go home to, and the kids they may have in school, or the meals they have to make at night, being able to go to the grocery store and have meals for those kids, it's just a trickle effect all over the city of New York. Can you give us some final thoughts here? Like I said, we have to go, but just what you want to leave us with. Because it seems to me, when you talk about food, first of all, it transcends just food. Do you know what I mean? Food to me is like music. It's a love language. It really is. You don't even need words. Talk about really quickly for everyone. It's not just the day-to-day grind of getting that blog out or getting that article out. It's about service.
Yeah. Everyone's got to eat. We know that, but sometimes we forget that. And I think the choice of how you eat, where you eat, what you're doing about it is really about who are you? What did you wake up and get out of bed for? How do you stand for something? How do you mean it on your terms, right? Your own, it has to start in your core. How do you feed yourself? How do you feed others? For me, it is. Food is service on so many different levels, metaphors, without metaphors. And it's one of the most meaningful, powerful tools to connect with people, whether it's over a meal or over a cookie. And you amazing women, I'm just staring at your faces, all have the ability to do it in your own unique way. And every one of you is powerful and has the power to impact. And small daily, to-do list, tasks, goals, moments, movements, bites, nibbles, makes really big difference.
I love it. We're out of time, aren't we? Give the woman next to you a hug. Group hug. Give her a hug. Give her a hug. Yes.
Yeah,
hug. Wait, you guys didn't hug. Give her a hug. Yes. Love.